guys, and welcome back to Sparking Wisdom. This is Teacher Talk Tuesday. Today, I thought it would be fun to share with you my biggest breakthrough or biggest moment of my first year teaching. So before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and make sure you click on the notifications so you get notified whenever I make new teacher videos. So this is Teacher Talk Tuesday on Sparking Wisdom. So, first year teaching, I tell you, is like trying to keep your head just barely above water while like 5 sharks are chasing you, the water is also on fire, and you need to get the laundry done in 30 seconds so you get ready for work. I mean, it's the amount of chaos is absolutely ridiculous. So I got my first teaching job right out of college. I graduated in 2015. That summer, I applied for actually 29 teaching jobs. That should be a whole nother story. And I only got on 2 interviews. One of them, I did get a callback interview, went back, and it just didn't work out. It was a really small district, and they were looking for somebody very specific who could actually coach golf. That's the whole reason I didn't get it, is because I didn't know anything about golf. Anyways, I interviewed the second time for a different job, and I had to actually interview that one over Skype because I was not in the area. I actually didn't really know where this area was of Wisconsin, but I ended up getting the job, and I was so excited. Had to Google where this place was. And then I had to prepare for my first year. And it was absolutely crazy because I was working at a summer camp at the time, and I could do a whole nother video on that. And so I was working in that summer job for the entire month of July, and this job I had to report at the end of August. And so I only had a month to figure out where I was going to live, what I was going to be teaching, all of this. And so my parents, being the lovely people that they are, actually went to the town that I was going to be teaching in, which was about 4.5 hours away from where I was currently living in Wisconsin, like other side of the state. And they scoped out a couple places, talked to some realtors, and they ended up finding this house for me, which was fantastic. So that I had to go through just via email the process of buying a house, and traveled to this area, looked at the house, decided, yep, I actually do want it, and then bought it. So within 2 months, I got my first like big girl job, and I bought a house, which was a terrifying experience, signing your life away. Wow. So then I actually couldn't finish signing the papers of my house until I had my first paycheck, which we get paid every 2 weeks or like every other week. And so for the first 2 weeks of me teaching, I was by myself. This is 4 hours away from all friends or family that I ever had. Like, I was not known to this area whatsoever. And so I was all by myself. I didn't have a house yet, so I was living in a hotel. And I also started my first coaching job, coaching middle school volleyball. So to say that I was a fish out of water, I think is an understatement. It was nuts. And I feel like that really encompasses a first year teaching experience. Now, I ended up having an amazing mentor, and she shared like all of her resources with me. We met so many times to make sure that I knew the curriculum really well. And so she was fantastic. Hi, Sam. Thank you very much. And so she was like my lifeline for teaching. So the craziness of that year, I made it through the first semester just fine. It was going well. I also tried to start a powerlifting program that year, which is still going strong. Nice job. And then spring hit, and for some reason, that's when just like shit hit the fan. It was ridiculous. So within about a 2-week period in early spring, I broke up with my boyfriend of 4 years, and it did not end particularly well. My parents were in process of selling my like childhood home, and my grandma was passing away of cancer. And so the amount of emotional stress that was going on at that particular moment was beyond measure. I actually took a stress test online where you just check off different like big moments that are going on in your life or things that you are experiencing just to see what your stress level was. And mine was like, you need to seek help, because the amount of things, like traveling to a new area, starting a new job, like death in the family, major relationship change. I mean, all of these boxes, I was like, yep, 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 yep. So that being said, I am, again, teaching, and this was my most profound day teaching, I would say. I've had other big moments before, but this is my first, I think my biggest one, just because it was my first year teaching. So I had this class that was a group of sophomores, I think. It was world history. And the way our class schedule was at this point in time, we had about 45-minute classes. Well, this class is a bigger school, so they have to have separated lunches in order to have all of the kids fit in the lunchroom. And so this class, I would see them for about 25 minutes. They would go to lunch and they would come back, and I would have them for about 25 minutes, which, first of all, is a terrible system. Trying to calm kids down to get to class, and then they leave for lunch, so they're starving, and then they come back after lunch and trying to calm them down from that just already didn't work. And then this group of kids, I always love my kids. I don't even call them my students, I call them my kids. But I will say that these guys were a challenge, not because they misbehaved a lot, but it's more like they were just so chatty, like so unbelievably chatty, that I couldn't get them to just stop talking and focus. And so that day, we had like set goals on talking about things so that I could try to get them more under control. And so I came up with this system where every time they just had work time, I just needed them to work on this worksheet. So every time somebody talked, I put a tally mark on the board. And for every tally mark that was like 30 seconds, they had to stay after class. And this is before they went to lunch. So I'm like, there's so many tally marks on the board right now. And I lost it on them. I remember I slammed the door. I rose my voice and yelled at them that they just need to be quiet, or I'm going to make them like stay in from lunch. Like, I mean, it was something ridiculous, something that I would never do, never make them like stay in. I would never deny a kid lunch, but I had no patience. I had no mental capacity to be able to handle a pretty minor situation, actually, just they were being chatty. I mean, nowadays, if I met that same situation, it honestly wouldn't have been that bad. Regardless, I can't even honestly remember all the things that I said, but I absolutely lost it on them. So then they did end up going to lunch. I think I kept them in like a minute from lunch, and I was like, you guys are hungry, you go, we'll make up this time later. So I went into my mentor's room for lunch, and I lost it. I broke down. I started bawling, because that's just not the kind of person I am. That's not the kind of teacher I want to be. And I just broke down to her. I was like, I don't know what to do. I mean, I lost it on them. And I felt like I don't know, I started doubting everything. Like, is this the kind of teacher I'm going to be? Like, I don't want to do that. Is this job right for me? I'm so stressed. I don't know what to do. And she did a good job of just, calming me down and telling me it was going to be okay. And then I was like, man, you know what? When they come back from lunch, I have to talk to them. I have to apologize. Like, that's just not, it's not okay. It's not okay what I did. And so I calmed down, ate my lunch. Pretty sure I remember I had scalloped potatoes and ham. Like, it was just a very iconic day for me. And so the kids come in and they're pretty quiet because I had just yelled at them before they went to lunch. And so I remember I actually borrowed a stool from my mentor, and I put the stool in front of the classroom, and I shut the door quietly, and I sat down, and I was just like kind of quiet for a second. They're all really quiet looking at me like, this is odd. What is she doing? And I remember I sat down and I was like, guys, I'm sorry. I am so, so sorry. It is never okay for me to speak to you like that. I go, you don't deserve that. That was not okay. And it's like, I don't ever want to yell at you that way. And I go, now that being said, were we behaving in a way that wasn't really acceptable? And they like nodded their head. Yeah. Like, yeah, we were being really chatty. We weren't following what you want us to do. And I was like, yeah, but thank you. I appreciate that you recognize that. But that is still absolutely no excuse on me. Like, I am so sorry. And I go, and I'll be honest, guys, I have some stuff that's going on in my life right now. And I shared with them what was happening, that I just got out of a not so great relationship, and that like my childhood home, like the only thing that I really have like connection to, because I'm still pretty new to this area is not home, and now home seems to be going away, and that there's chaos in my family of like my grandmother passing away, and I was just like, I'm not able to handle what's happening in this class right now. And I was like, but that's no excuse. I shouldn't take it out on you guys. And this one girl who's kind of like the ringleader and a very, very chatty, outspoken girl, she's like, Miss Kyle, because I was Miss Kyle at that time, Miss Kyle, can you just leave the room for a second so that we can chat? And I was like, okay. Thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna like set the room on fire or something. So I go into my mentor's room, and she's like, what are you doing here? It's like, they just sent me out of the room. They wanted to chat. And I kind of told her what I did, and she's like, okay. And I walked back into class. They came and got me, and I was only out for a couple minutes. And they brought me back into class, and they were like, we want to thank you. I was like, for what? And they were like, I don't want to get too emotional on this. They were like, no teacher has ever apologized to us before. They're like, we have been yelled at and screamed at and just different things throughout their career in school. And for things that sometimes they did something wrong and sometimes they didn't. And they're like, but we have never had a teacher that like sat down and was human to us, and just said that, hey, like, I messed up. And so they were like, side note, first of all, that broke my heart a little bit, that, we as teachers are human. We have human emotions, and we have bad days, and we have great days, just like our kids have bad days and great days. And for them not to have experienced a teacher apologize and say sorry, I mean, in a way, I get it. I mean, I was a young teacher. There was a lot of times when kids would ask me a question and I felt like I had to know the answer. Otherwise, they were going to like, they know that I don't know everything. They know I'm a bad teacher. And so if you're ever wrong and you're yelling at a student and just like not backing down, even though you're wrong. I mean, I get it, but you can't do that. It broke my heart that these students because they're rowdy, had never been apologized to. So first of all, that hurt. And second of all, they were just like, hey, we understand and we're going to try to be better. Now, the end of that week, it was so sweet. They apparently, when they sent me out of the room, they took up a collection of money, and they made me a tie blanket, which I actually still have in my classroom to this day. They got me a whole bunch of different candy, which, thank you, needed that. And they got me like a sympathy card that they all signed for my grandma, which was just so unbelievably sweet. These kids that I just yelled at for really no fault of their own to take time and money, I mean, they're sophomores, not all of them have jobs, to do this for me was just so sweet. So sweet. My relationship with those kids changed on that day. I mean, were they perfect? No, of course not. I mean, they still had their chatty moments and stuff like that, but I just felt like a switch had flipped. Like, they were human and I was human, and we were just able to understand each other. And that idea has carried through with me for the rest of my teaching career. The idea that there is, at some point in time, going to be some moment between me and a student that switch is flipped, where I see them as a human instead of just a student, and they see me as a human and not just a teacher. And I cannot think of a better way than to say it like that. Not that I don't think my kids are like humans and beings, but there is a change that goes, I mean, it's kind of like a change of someone becoming an acquaintance to a good friend. You know, you see them differently. You know how they work, you know how they function. And I've just kept that idea that I am going to try to make that flip, that switch with as many students as I can. Because if I am able to build that kind of relationship with them where I understand how they tick and how they work, and they also understand me, like I have built some amazing relationships with students because of that, where they can come to me and talk to me about problems, and they can understand, and I'm open and honest with them when I'm not having a great day, because that happens. It will always happen. And that's just been one of my biggest takeaways from teaching, that I don't have to be perfect. Absolutely not, because I'm not, and I'm never going to be a perfect teacher. I will always try to improve, but I'm not going to be a perfect teacher. So that was a tough concept to register. Also registering being honest with your students, being honest with them when you're not having a good day, being honest with them when stuff is going on in your life, and that you don't have to like lie and save face. You don't have to do that. They will respect you more if you are honest with them than if you're just trying to pretend everything's okay and then things end up not being okay. And then finally, that building relationships with students is the biggest thing that you can do as a teacher. I mean, do I care if they know the date of the French Revolution? No. Do I care if they know who was the first explorer to circumnavigate the earth? No, I don't care. You can Google that stuff. But if they know how to build a relationship with somebody, if they know how to build a relationship with somebody who is superior to them, like a boss to a worker relationship, and if they know how to work through their own mental issues by me doing it also, you know, we can bond through that. That's such a huge deal. The idea of building relationships and modeling how to handle life it's amazing. And when I first got into this job, I didn't know if I was going to be a good teacher. I love history, and I knew that I could do something with that at some point, but I didn't know if I was going to be a good teacher. And like after that day, I knew that this is where I wanted to be, that this is where I can make a difference, that this is going to be a good job for me. So that's it. That was my most profound moment of my first year teaching that has influenced my teaching from here on out. So I appreciate you guys listening to me, and comment down below if there was a big impactful moment in your life that has kind of changed how you've handled your working life or your relationship, or comment down below if there was a big moment with a teacher, you know, where a teacher was honest with you and had a really big breakthrough moment. I would love to hear your stories. So again, thank you so much for watching. This has been Bridget on Sparking Wisdom for Teacher Talk Tuesdays.